Hi guys, this is Mike L from the Comic Book Syndicate. We are at the Motor City Comic Con. We are with Babs Tarr. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am great. Okay, so I was first exposed to your work on Batgirl.
Yep.
But why don't we go back before that and talk about who you were influenced by growing up and why you got into comics.
I got into comics because of Batgirl. I've never drawn comics before Batgirl. Wow. I have a crazy Cinderella story. I was working as a full-time game artist at the time, and I was an illustrator, and I had a whole website full of stuff that you guys see at my table here, and I went to school for illustration, and I never really pursued comics because what I knew about it was really hard to get into. The pay is shitty, and you have to work really, really, really hard. So I was like, pass. But then I got emailed by the writers of the new Batgirl, and they were like, oh, would you be interested in drawing our book? And I'm like, I can bypass all that bullshit and just go straight to DC Comics. Like, yeah, that sounds great. So I said yes, and then, there's this period where we had to kind of convince DC to take a chance on me, and Cameron Stewart, one of my writers on the book, agreed to do the layouts. So he kind of baby birded me a little bit, took me under his wing. So the first 5 issues of Batgirl, Cameron did the layouts and then I did the inks, and then we had a colorist color it, and that's kind of how I learned how to do comics on the job on a major DC book, Batgirl of Burnside. So trial by fire, it was pretty fun.
That is so incredible. And so did you design the new costume?
Me and Cameron collaborate on it. So when I got it, she had the boots and the stripe on her leggings, and she had a plain jacket. So I drew all the lines in the jackets because I have leather jackets, and I know where the darts and the lines go on a female jacket. So I added that, and I did a kind of a cooler collar on it, and then I kind of redid her belt to be a little cooler and a little bit more different than just the boring utility belt that went across the middle. And we added some earrings to her, and Cameron had her hair in a ponytail, and I kind of dropped it down because that's what I would want to draw.
Yeah.
So, and I was drawing it, so I did it. And then I sent them off to Cameron, and he loved the changes, and that was it. That was her costume.
So had you been following Batgirl at all, or you just liked the character from sort of when you were growing up?
Yeah, who of my age group didn't grow up with Batman the Animated Series?
Okay.
So I did not know there were other Batgirls other than Babs. So when I was getting Twitter tweets, of oh, so-and-so should be Batgirl, or this Batgirl, I was like, who? Barbara Gordon, what are you talking about? I watched the animated series, so that's all I knew, and I was so happy to work from her, and Babs drawing Babs, that's just good PR right there.
Exactly. Now, okay, so it was a critical hit, it was a sales hit, right?
Yeah, we did pretty good. It tapered off after the first one, but the first one always blows up. But even if it wasn't, I had such a good time drawing it.
And there was a brief time, I remember, when there was allegedly DC was encouraging their other creators to quote Batgirl their comics. Do you remember that? Or Batgirling? You guys are
They had tried this thing called DCU, and they were creating a line that was more youth-based, I think, and maybe that's what the media was kind of saying, in a derogatory way.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think Black Canary was kind of under that, and that was successful, but I think, it's hard. It's hard to... I'm Babs, you know what I mean? That character, I was in my 20s, I was young, I drunkenly made out with someone before, I was hungover, all that stuff. I feel there's an authenticity putting someone like myself on a book about a young 20-something, and I was a young 20-something, so I don't know if it always works when you want to try to put that on other characters and stuff.
Well, you know what, to be honest, I took it as almost are you familiar with Warren Ellis's Moon Knight reboot?
Yeah, but that was really successful, wasn't it?
It was, and I took it more as, never mind the 70 years of continuity, never mind trying to appeal to all the people that were tweeting about Stephanie Brown and this Batgirl and that Batgirl. It's look, this is the way everyone knows her. She's 20-something, she's fighting crime, she's in college, she has friends, whatever. And of course, yourself being of that demographic, it makes sense that someone like you that would do it. And so to me, it was more let's just do it so that it'll appeal to as wide as possible. That's what I saw.
You would not believe how many people have come up to me at cons and was like, I started getting into comics because of Batgirl. Because for the first fucking time, they saw themselves in a major character under a bat line. And I think before that, it was very much dark and gritty and catered to one type of reader. And then the brilliant thing that Mark Doyle, who was the editor of that Bat group at the time, did was he had like a Batman book that was about mystery and a Batman book that was about kind of espionage with Nightwing, and then they had a Bat book that was, geared toward young girls maybe that had never happened before. And it brought in tons of new readers because there was a major DC character that was like, hey, you like that genre? You feel like you relate to that character? Like, here's a book for you. And that was a really cool thing that he did.
And I think it was kind of a course correction after the New 52 where everything kind of was the same, it felt like to me. Mm-hmm. So a couple years later now we have you coming in, and as well as a few other books where, like Black Canary, I thought this is perfect. Like, again,
make her a singer. Right. Her power is singing. She has those fishnets. That's already in like rock and roll culture. Right. All we did was take these like core concepts that make that character up and crank it up to 11. Unlike sometimes those other books, like maybe that didn't quite make sense to do whatever they did with it. But I appreciate them trying stuff because I was definitely something they tried out, and I know for a fact that they only thought we were maybe going to be around for 6 issues, and then it got such a huge response that we stayed on for 3 years. So like I think it's good that they keep trying things. You never know it's going to stick. Like all those Gwen pools and the Spider-Gwen, like those are experiments that Marvel did, and they ended up being these like new characters with these new lines. So I don't think it's bad for them to experiment, and I hope they keep trying new stuff, and I'm not going to chastise them, and because that's why I'm here right now. They took a chance on me that nothing at DC was. When I got emailed about Batgirl, one of the reasons I said yes so fast, even though I hadn't done comics, was like, they're not going to hire me. So like, I just was like, yeah, I'll draw Batgirl for DC Comics. That
whatever
sounds
you
great.
say,
yeah.
DC.
So like, and then I got that email where it's like, oh, it's down to you and one other person. I was like, oh shit, this is real.
To do this?
Then I'm like, I'm gonna have to learn how to draw comic books. A lot of me fumbling through my first couple of years on drawing Batgirl was like, I know nothing about American comic books. I grew up drawing manga. I was reading manga. Okay. So like I drew straight anime and manga until I got to art school, and they like beat better taste in me. But not super hard, as you can tell. There's a lot of anime influence in my work, but just better taste. I leveled it up so it's more palatable to everybody and not just anime fans. But I'm still true to myself, and I really like the way it looks. So
I would never have known you'd never done comics before that, because I picked up Batgirl because of your art. You were fine. You did just fine.
Well, Cameron, did the great job, helped me with the layouts, and like even on Motor Crush, he did the first 5 issues of Motor Crush too, and we just make a good team, and I really appreciate him teaching me and getting me into this field. Yeah.
We've interviewed him too. He's really nice. He's a great guy.
He's great. Yeah. I would not be here without him. So thank you, Cameron and Brendan. I love you.
Okay, so now let's talk about. So now, since then, what are you working on now? What can we look forward to?
Oh, right. Okay, so same creative team, Brendan and Cameron. We really like working with each other. So we try to take that clout that we kind of gained from Batgirl and bring those fans over to create our own book called Motor Crush. And it's with Image Comics. And Volume 1 is out now, and Volume 2 is out May 30th. It stars Domino Swift, and she's this motorcycle racer, and she's in these like illegal bike fights, and the whole thing kind of revolves around this weird substance called Crush, and it's like this liquid that you put in your motorcycle and make it go really fast, but maybe it has to do with time travel, who knows, I don't know, you'll have to pick it up. But it kind of starts out as a sportsy racing book, and then it takes this weird left turn into sci-fi, and the guys gave me the outline for the next arc recently, and I read it and I was like, shit, this is like a horror, and I'm really excited to tackle that too. So different genres, and it's really fun to flex these muscles. Like, one of my favorite things about comics, like, when I was doing illustration, the only thing that was on me is drawing exactly what I wanted to draw, but comics challenges me to draw these things that I would never ever draw. So it's really fun. It makes my job really interesting because I get to do a different thing every day.
Do you draw digitally or on paper?
So Batgirl, I was a real chicken, and I wanted it to be perfect. So all of Batgirl was line work would take me a month.
Okay.
And that's not even, that's with help with the layout. So I would sketch and do the line work on my computer in a month. So there's no OG pages of Batgirl. But Motor Crush, I wanted to do on paper, and I wanted to have a more illustration feel. I just finished The Vision. Tom King is the writer, and the artist on it, put their name like down here because I can't remember. The artist on it, he does these really great watercolor washes, and I was like really inspired by those gorgeous pages. And so I did the same thing on Motor Crush. So I drew sketches on the computer, and then I print out on paper, and then I ink it, and then I scan it back in the computer to color it. And then that line work, I'll even do like a ink wash on a separate piece of paper because I'm too chicken to do it on my line work in case I mess up. But that's kind of how I've been doing Motor Crush, and I'm really proud of it, and I get to color it myself, which is the hardest part of Batgirl was handing it off, because I come from this illustration background where that's like me handing off a half-finished piece of work to finishing it. So Motor Crush is exactly the way I want it to look, and that's so satisfying because when you work as a freelance artist, you don't always, you're not the boss, you're working for the client, so you don't always get it. But on Motor Crush, I am the boss.
I can ask now, is that coffee over there?
Yes.
Have you ever spilled a coffee on any of your original art?
Nope.
No, good, there you go, all right.
Nope, not yet.
Good to hear.
Not yet.
It's the first time for everything.
Yeah. Okay, so when I went to the comic shop when I was little, like 12 years old, I was like, comics, great. They draw for a living, I draw for a living, this will be great. So I gave my little allowance and I go up to the guy and I'm like, hi, like, do you have like a fun romance or like a female book or like, like a girly thing? Because that's what I wanted. And the guy's like, I don't know, like that's the wall over there. Total dick.
Yeah, that sounds about right for almost every comic.
So I was like, whatever, dude, I'll figure it out myself. So I walked over to the wall and I was like looking at all the covers and I picked out the 4 coolest covers I saw.
Do you remember what they were?
I think the Human Torch was one of them. I don't remember. Because I was burned. So I took them home and I opened them up, different artists on the inside. Fucking lied and tricked, and I was like, never again American comic books until I worked for them. Then I was like, well, maybe I should give you a second go since it's my field now. But I liked manga. The same artist is the same artist on the inside on the cover, and like there's all these girly books for it. And I grew up reading like shoujo kind of style manga, which is like girlier romance, and the girls are always wearing these great outfits in it, and I was reading it because I wanted to know the story, but I also like wanted to see what Peach Girl was gonna wear that issue, and like each scene, she like her hair is different, and she's got different jewelry, and her nails have a cute manicure, and so I'm reading it because I want to see their clothes, and I want to know what the fashion, the story goes. So,
did you ever go back to that comic shop owner and show him your copy of?
No, that shitty shop closed because they're run by a bunch of dicks.
They deserve it, yeah.
They deserve it, yeah. If they were nice to me, maybe it would have been okay. Who knows?
Showed them. All right. Okay, I think we're good.
Is that good?
Yeah, we can talk all night.
He's like, let me get me away from this crazy girl.
No.
I got new glasses, and I'm used to like taking them off.
Oh, they're great.
Like my old ones, but I love these.
No, these are cool.
Aren't those so fun? Yeah. They're like anime.
Yeah,
I look like
nice.
one of my drawings. All right, well, thanks, guys.
No problem. Okay, nice meeting you, eh?
You too.
All right, and you know what? We'll give you.
Are you Canadian?
Yeah, can you tell?
I heard the A. I kind of travel.
So your accent is a little general from different places.
Yeah, I have giveaway words like library and y'all.
Okay.
And crown.
What's crown?
Crowns.
Crayon.
Oh, crayon. That's how you say it, really?
Crowns.
Wow. Oh, I would never have got that. Okay. That's funny.
The South.